Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm excited to share with you a project. I was guest designing this week with Stamp Anything, and here is a look at the products that I received from this release. I know if you follow me over on Instagram, you saw some other posts, and I also did post a little short a couple days ago. But this is a quick little overview of everything that I received in my package. So I have the Snow Just to Be Fair stamp set and coordinating die for the image. I also have the Prince You're So Charming, and I have the stamp and die for that as well, and that you would have seen yesterday in a post. And my princess was in yesterday and the day before. Today I'm going to be using the Dopey Your Dope stamp with its coordinating die. I also received this little princess sentiment die, which you would have seen on Wednesday. And then I have this tree stencil and this adorable cottage builder die. I think it is so cute. I'm going to be using the stencil cottage die and my Dopey Your Dope stamp set today. So let's start with cutting all of our pieces for the cottage builder die. So I have boxes of colored cardstock that I have sorted by color. So I like to try to use up my stash when it comes to die cutting. So I have my main cottage piece cut out of some cream cardstock, and I'm going to use my tea dye distress ink to, oh no, sorry, antique linen distress ink to add a little bit of shading to my main cottage piece. So just using a blender brush, I'm adding some shadow and some depth, and just to help my die not look so plain, I guess you could say, my die cut. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that antique linen all the way around. I want to try to create a little bit of shadow for where the cottage roof is going to hang over. And then I am adding some splatter by just squishing some of that ink onto my glass mat, spraying it with water, and flicking on or tapping on the splatter with a paintbrush. So I'll go ahead and pick up the water with a towel and clean up my glass mat. And then I'm going to go a little bit quicker through the rest of my distressing, but I just wanted to show you at least one piece, some full detail of how I add my color. For these little pieces that fit inside of the cottage like detail die as well as the door, I'm grabbing Vintage Photo and I'm going to ink blend a little bit of shadow onto these little pieces. I just did the shorter sides for those little three small pieces and added a little bit to the door. And then I'm repeating that same process with splatter by just squishing some of that ink onto my glass mat and then tapping it onto my little pieces. For the cottage details, I'm using ground espresso, and I didn't do any splatter with that one because you're not going to see a whole lot of it and it's already dark enough as is. For the roofing, I die cut it out of some yellow cardstock, and I'm starting with using an alcohol marker to flick on some alcohol ink. I'm trying to create a look of a kind of hay roof. And then I grabbed Scattered Straw Distress ink and just adding a little bit of a shadow to underneath my roof. So I'm just trying to give it some light and dimension. And for my greenery, I'm bringing out Forest Moss Distress ink, and I'm using a smaller blending brush this time because these little pieces are so dainty. And just to add again, trying to add depth to my die cut pieces. So now that I have everything ready, let's assemble. I'm going to do a bit of a dry run because this is my first time working with the die. I wasn't really sure how everything was going to layer together. I like that you can personalize this cottage how you want, but I had a still shot of the cottage from the movie that this was inspired from, and just trying to kind of follow the look of that cottage, but also, making it my own for my project. So I decided to add the greenery kind of towards the top of the cottage and then a little bit closer to the top of the doorway. And once I have a rough layout, we're going to start gluing everything together. So I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to glue all of my pieces together. I would like the extra time that liquid adhesive gives, a little bit of wiggle room to make sure my pieces are lined up. So I'm going to start with the cottage details, so adding liquid adhesive behind all of that, and then adhering that to my cottage base, that cream colored cardstock. I am going to add one of my greeneries before I glue down the hay roof. But before I do that, I'm adding in those 3 little pieces. I added glue to the openings, and then I used my jewel picker to pick up that craft cardstock and puzzle piece those pieces in. And now I'm going to add my greenery. That's going to be kind of at the top of that little stacked cottage detail. For my house, for my door for my cottage, I'm going to center that to the bottom of my little cottage. So just using my grid mat to help me get that centered. And my last 2 remaining pieces, I wanted to pop up with some foam adhesive. I am using a slightly thinner foam adhesive. This is from Thermoweb, and I'm going to trim it to fit behind my hay cottage roof. I feel like there's a name for that. I want to say like thatched, but I don't know if that's the right word. You can tell me in the comments. But I just, lined the back of that with foam adhesive, and then I'm lining it up to match the details of the cottage. And as you can see, that dark brown cardstock really isn't visible, so that's why I didn't add a lot of detail with distress ink on it. My second piece of greenery, I'm adding more foam adhesive, and that's going to be above my door and kind of in line with the details of that cottage, the dark brown cardstock. And that will finish off my cute little cottage. How cute is this just by itself? I love it. It's so adorable. I definitely can see myself using this with other stamps as well, like critters, and it's really cute. I love it. Now I'm going to work on my background for my card. I have this piece of blue cardstock that is cut to A2 in size, which is 5.5 by 4.25, and I'm grabbing my tree stencil and I'm going to do a little bit of stenciling. So I grabbed that same Forest Moss Distress ink, and I'm going to add these tree line details with my blending brush, again in Forest Moss. So I wanted to make sure I chose a darker green because I'm adding the ink on top of a bright blue piece of cardstock. I thought about bringing out my oxides, but I really wanted the ink to sink into the paper and really, have that pretty green tree line. So that's why I'm using Distress ink for this. And I'm going through and making sure to get the details of the tree and then really filling in the bottom of my tree line so it also kind of looks like, grass or a hill in the distance. Once I'm happy with how my trees look, I removed my stencil. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then I'm going to bring in Broken China Distress ink, and that's just to darken up my sky a little. I'm going to do a bit of a vignette look, so a little heavier in the corners of my sky, and then it will fade into the side of my card where my trees are, as well as across the top. So just trying to lightly add in, again, more dimension and just to give my card like a colorful feel rather than just a straight piece of cardstock, if that makes sense. Once that's done, I'm going to grab my Starry Colors Pigment watercolor in different shades of gold, and I'm adding water to one of my gold watercolors here, and then using my paintbrush to splatter that all along the background, and I even do a little bit on my cottage. I will go ahead and set these pieces aside to dry while I work on coloring now. So when I was originally planning out this card in my head, I wanted the snow character and the dopey character to be on the card, but these images were a little larger than I was planning in my head. I maybe should have done a 5 by 7 size card. So since I've already used my princess on a card, or at the time when I filmed this, I was thinking about using my princess on a different card, I'm just going to use our adorable little dopey character here. So I'm going to stamp him on some white cardstock that is alcohol marker friendly, and I have an alcohol marker friendly black ink, and I think I stamped him 2 or 3 times to really make sure I had a nice clean impression, especially since those eyes are a solid black stamp. And now I'm just going to quickly go through the coloring of my character. I do speed up my coloring to about 2 times as fast, so it looks like I'm a fast colorist, but I am not. I take my time, and I just wanted to show you more of the color combinations and how I add the color. So I'm going to start with the skin color of my character, and I'm using R26 as the darkest shade, and I'm adding it to where I think anywhere would be shadow on his face and around his ears and eyes and nose. So just adding in the darkest color as my details. And then for my midtone, I'm going to bring out R29, and I'm just going to extend those shadows out a little more. So again, just following what I think would be the darkest points of the face. So where the ears meet the head and the nose cast some shadow, and then bringing in from the top and sides, and a little bit heavier on the bottom of like the chin of my character's face. And then I go around the eyes. I noticed that in the sample pictures of this stamp that the colorist went a little bit more around the eyes so that there was some white of the eye. So I tried to follow that. This is my first time coloring in these larger images from Stamp Anything. So I was following the image on the stamp set while still picking my own colors and making it my own. Then the final color I'm bringing in is R18, and I'm just really going to lay down this color and blend everything together and fill in the large opening that I have right now of the image. So you'll see me, I'll color this quite a bit, but I'm not going to show the whole thing because it takes me a little while to really get this character's head all colored in. But I'll just use that to finish up coloring in the skin for my character. Now it looks a little dark right now, and it will dry back as the ink dries. I used R12 as the tongue. That's like my go-to color for tongues in my characters or critters' mouths. For the green, I'm going to use interesting color combination, I guess. I wanted it to look more olive, so I have GY42 as the darkest shade. And again, going through and trying to add this where I think there would be shadow. And then I'm going to bring in GY8 to be the midtone. So going back over what I've already colored and extending that out into the white. I tried to leave a little bit of area for highlights on my coloring, but that will be the midtone. And then here's when the weird color comes in my opinion. I'm using G080. It's kind of a weird yellowy green color, a bit kind of toxic slime looking, but it really blended with the other two colors I thought quite well to create that bright olive green color for his outfit. For his hat that he's holding behind his back, I'm bringing in some purple, so my darkest tone is V080, my mid-tone is V050, and again, just following the same process of going back over the darkest area and bringing the color in, and then my lightest color was V030. For the yellow, I'm just using one color, YR33, to fill in the buttons and the belt buckle, and then I'm going to bring in brown. So I'm starting with my darkest color, BR1, to add to the belt, and I just did one color for the belt, and then this shade of brown will be the darkest for the little patch on his outfit as well as the shoes. And then I'll bring in the other BRs, BR2 to be the mid-tone and BR3 to be the lightest to really blend those colors together. I wanted to add some rosy little cheeks to my character, so I'm going to bring in R21 for that. I had a hard time kind of figuring out where the cheeks would be for the character, so I just looked at the image packaging to help me with that. And for the eyes, I brought in B110 just to add a subtle outline to the eyes, just to give it a little more color. I'm going to use the coordinating die. I think it's so fun that these dies are orange, and I'm going to cut him out on my die cut machine, and he just looks so darn cute. And I really like the spacing of these dies. It doesn't leave a very big white border, and I really like it. I kind of wish I had this option on other dies. I guess I could use my scan and cut, but I just thought that white outline around my image was really nice compared to some other companies. I just really like it. So now I have a rough idea of how I want my card to be laid out. So I have my stenciled background, I have my cottage. It's going to be closer to the right side of the card, and then my cute little character will be more on the left side. But I wanted to add a sentiment, so I grabbed a banner die from PopsicleSticks, and I'm going to die cut it out of white cardstock, and I picked the "You're Dope" sentiment. I just had to, it's the cutest. And I'm going to stamp on that white banner with black ink. But I'm going to stamp closer to the right side of the banner. I'm not centering it because I'm going to glue this behind my character and have it kind of just stick out to the right. And then I will trim off anything that shows to the left of my character. So you'll see here, I'm going to tuck it in, and I just want the banner to extend out past my character on the right, but not on the left. So to do that, I'm going to add a little bit of glue behind my character where it will overlap with the banner. I will get my card laid out again how I want it, and then I will lay the banner down and then lay my character and pick up the banner with that glue behind my character. I'll go ahead and give it a chance for the glue to adhere, and then I'll take my scissors and just trim off the part of the banner that I want to remove. So now I have all of my different pieces ready to go for my card. I'm going to go ahead and glue my cottage in place. Just going to use some liquid glue. I already have some dimension on my cottage from adding the foam adhesive behind the straw roof and some of my greenery. And then I'm going to add a bunch of foam adhesive behind my sentiment and my character, except where it overlaps anything that's already popped up. So again, parts of my cottage already have foam adhesive, and I'm using the same thickness foam for behind my character and my sentiment. So anywhere where it will overlap, I made sure to not put any foam adhesive, and I'm going to use liquid adhesive instead. So I pulled off all the release paper from the foam behind my character and my sentiment. I'm going to use my grid mat to help me get this as straight as possible, and just making sure my character looks like he's standing on the ground and that his ears both make it onto the card front, and went ahead and secured that in place. So he is so cute. I absolutely love how this card is turning out. I am going to add a little bit of white gel highlights to the cheeks and the eyes, and then some random spots around my character. I'll go ahead and clean up everything else on my desk, and I'll add this to a card base in a little bit, but here is a close-up look at how this card turned out. I absolutely love these adorable characters from Stamp Anything, and like I said, this cottage die is the cutest. I can't wait to use it again. But I hope you enjoyed my inspiration for this new release from Stamp Anything this week. Let me know which of the 3 cards are your favorite in the comments below, and I look forward to showing you more with them in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!